Hi, welcome back to my channel. On this video, I am doing a follow-up review of this USB battery pack that I purchased off of Amazon. I purchased this last week on a Christmas sale. These normally retail for $55, but they were on sale for $18. And I thought, how can you go wrong only spending $18 on a battery pack that claims to have 36,000 milliamps of charging power? Well, it turns out you could go pretty wrong. There are some things that I was a little suspicious of in the review. Recharging this thing from solar, no good. I've left this out in the sun for 2 days and seen barely any change at all. I think you'd probably have to leave this outside for a week to recharge this thing. But in my original review, I was a little suspicious about how much electricity is actually stored inside this thing. This charging pack is lighter than one of my other ones. This one is 20,000 milliamps. This one, again, 36,000. So it should be almost double the capacity. Now, I get that there are some increases in battery technology and so forth, but this one is smaller, it's lighter, and I really had my doubts. So I was able to charge my phone. I have an iPhone Pro 11, which has a battery of about 4,000 milliamps. I was able to charge it once, and this battery pack was almost dead, and then I had to recharge it. Now, one thing that was a little suspicious is on the Amazon ad, it says it could take 10.5 hours to recharge this from the wall, but this one recharges in a little over 2 hours, which tells me that the battery is probably much smaller than what is advertised. Now, if you're like me, you don't know how to test the battery capacity in this. You could charge your phone and count how many times, but that doesn't seem like it would be completely accurate. So here's what I did. I found on Amazon that they sell USB multimeters. Now, this isn't exactly like the multimeter you may be thinking, but this USB device, you can plug into USB-A or USB-C. It will tell you the watts, the volts, and the amps that are passing out of a USB port. Now, if you're interested in these, I will just tell you real quickly that this doesn't draw any real power from a USB power bank, and so you'll need something like this. This is called a USB dummy load. So this is basically just a more or less it's a short circuit. I think there's probably some resistors on here, and this will draw 5 volts, and you can adjust how many amps with this little dial that's on here. So this plugs into the USB multimeter, and the USB multimeter plugs into something like a battery pack. And so what will happen is, since this is pulling 5 volts, it's like you're charging something, but it's at a constant rate, so we know what this rate is. And this also keeps track of how many milliamps pass through it. So you charge this up to 100%. When it gets down to 0%, you can pull this out, plug it into something else. You can see what the number was when it stopped. So, due to some complicated math, some conversion of 3.7 volts to 5 volts, and a lot of stuff that I won't get into on this video, you're never going to get the advertised rate on one of these USB battery packs. In fact, the easiest way to figure that is to multiply the advertised milliamps by about 0.6. That will give you a pretty accurate estimate of what you're going to get out of this. So this is a 20,000 milliamp battery. If you multiply it by 0.6, you get around 12,000 milliamps. I plugged this into it. I ran it until it was dry. I checked the number. It was almost exactly 12,000 milliamps. So that's what I would expect to get from this device. This device, which advertises 36,800 milliamps, even if we correct because the change in voltage between the 3.7 volt in the batteries and the 5 volt that comes out of USB, and there is a certain amount of energy loss in the conversion. None of that's important in this video. The point is, I would expect in a perfect world for this to give me about 28,000 milliamps of charging power. That would mean I should be able to charge my iPhone at least 7 times. But when I hooked this up to it and did my same test, it died before 5,000 milliamps, which means I was only, and that lines up with the fact that I was only able to charge my iPhone one time. I did it a second time because you can adjust the load on the USB dummy load. It's always 5 volts because that's what USB is. But I did it once with 1 amp and once at 2 amps, and I got similar numbers. At 2 amps, this lasted about 5,000. At 1 amp, it lasted about 5,500. So I got 5 5,000 roughly milliamps charging out of this, and it's advertised at 36,800. That tells me that this does not perform anywhere near what it is advertised. I was assuming I would be able to charge my phone 7-8 times while I'm out on the road, but I was barely able to charge it one time. These things are junk. I would not order. They sell them from a lot of different brands, but you can always tell because they have this, they come in orange or black. They have this rugged thing, and they have the built-in solar panel. So there's a lot of different brands selling this exact same thing on Amazon, but personally I would avoid all of them unless you want a $18 compass.